This one is for the new syntax students. The hardest part of the learning curve, the steepest part, when you're just getting started. And what I sometimes think is like almost like half the battle of syntax is identifying and understanding what are called the parts of speech, also called word categories, or the different types of words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and so on. Because that's what syntax cares about. And once you know what parts of speech, what type of words you're working with, a lot of the rules of syntax kind of apply automatically. But before you know what's what with those parts of speech, it just looks like a bunch of words. So let's take a look here, like example sentences. And yeah, this is a problem in syntax. It's like example sentences are terrible. And for some reason, even though I know this and I keep saying it, I still can't come up with any better example sentences. Because syntax, it doesn't care about the actual meaning. It only cares about the structure of the sentence. And so they end up with these like very bland like sentences like Alice says hello to Bob, and like these kind of like, it seems like there's an opening here to have like better example sentences, but when I'm actually thinking of them, I'm trying to think of an example sentence, it doesn't come to me. But here we go. The world turns steadily. Okay, so we have 4 words. And now we're trying to build this into some kind of syntactic tree, an understanding of what is the structure of this sentence. Okay, so when you just see a bunch of words, there is really no clear way to go because you don't know what to do with this. But as soon as you know what the word categories are, the parts of speech, the remaining steps tend to fall in line. So this is where this is where it's worth putting in a lot of practice to get used to identifying these parts of speech. Now, some of them you're gonna learn, one by one. Like you learn that the word the, this is the most common word in English. This is D for a determiner, and it's a special type of word. And one thing that you learn about a determiner is that it's something that goes together with a noun. And so if you see a word like the or a, one of these determiners, this and that and many others, then you know that there's a noun coming up, either right away or very soon. So that's what we have here. World is a thing. And of course, when you have something like the blank, right, this is probably a noun, right? And so you could put almost any noun into that category. The head turns steadily. The clock turns steadily. Even things that make no sense, like the imagination turns steadily. Well, I guess imagination can do anything. See, it's so hard to think of examples when it comes to syntax. The table turns steadily. Well, I guess that does make sense. But anyway, the point is that you can have, any noun here, even if it doesn't really make sense. Let's say the color turns steadily. That's a bit strange. But you can still imagine it making sense. I'm trying to think of an example of like, there's like a noun where it would make no sense there. But it seems like, with a verb like turns, you can make anything fit there. And oops, did I just give it away? Okay, the next one, well, turns is the verb, right? So the thing is with verbs, well, one thing to know, of course, is that every sentence is going to have at least a verb in it, right? So you got to have a verb somewhere. And verbs can take many different forms. They're not always obvious, but you're going to have to find one. So if you can identify some of the other words, you can narrow down your options. And you can also find like different alternatives that could fit there. Like you could say, if you say, it is blanking, right? That blank, that's probably a verb. So if you could say something like, it is turning, then it's probably a verb. And you can also imagine substituting with other verbs, like you can say the world rolls steadily, the world moves steadily, the world exists steadily. Like you can imagine, and those are all verbs and they all fit into that same pattern. And so then the last one, well, steadily. This one is something that is describing the turning. And it's one of those extra words that one thing you can see about this word is that it's optional, because you could just say the world turns, and that would be a complete sentence. Whereas you cannot remove the word turns. You can't just say the world steadily. You can't remove world. You can say like the turns steadily. But steadily is one of those words that's easily removed and you still get a complete sentence. And you see that this is modifying the verb turns. It's describing how it's turning. That's another clue. And you also have the clue of this ly ending, because you have many of this type of word have a ly ending. You say quickly, thoughtfully, and so on. So this is the word, this type is an adverb. And so you see this, you put together all the clues that you can to start to identify some of these words. And as you do more and more sentences, you're going to find that these same things are going to repeat, right? You're going to see the, how many times are you going to see the word the, right? And then you're going to know it's a determiner, and you're going to know there's a noun coming up. You're going to see where nouns can fit, where verbs fit, where adverbs fit. You're going to see the same patterns repeating over and over again. And your biggest challenge and most important challenge in syntax is to identify each of these types. Because once you have that, you know, the remaining steps, they kind of start to be automatic. You start to learn that, you know, determiner and noun become a noun phrase. Now there are more advanced ways to do it, like there's X-bar theory and more advanced forms of putting the syntax together, but this is the basic version, right? And then you can see the verb and the adverb, they both combine together to make a verb phrase, right? And in the basic version, you know, noun phrase and verb phrase together make a sentence. And so those steps are kind of automatic, and you know that determiner and noun together become a noun phrase. Verb and the thing describing the verb, you know, they're going to be together as a verb phrase. And the noun phrase and verb phrase together make the sentence. Like it's kind of straightforward. I mean, not to say that any of this is straightforward, but the hardest part is getting this first line. Okay, so that's your first challenge. And like, once you do that, the remaining steps I find are easier. You can use some other patterns, like you could say if it's like the blank thing, if it's here, like probably an adjective, right? So that's going to be something like you have like, you know, the happy thing, the big thing, the small thing, the whole thing. Those are all adjectives that fit there, right? So that's a common piece you're going to see. Another piece that's commonly, I'm looking, I'm going to the city. Okay, so if you look at it this way, just to focus on this part, there's another word category that's very common and it's very helpful to see, and that is here, these little words. These are prepositions. You'll start to see a common set of them, like in, it's, blank. Let's see, it's blank the table. Probably a preposition. This is probably stretching a little bit. I mean, it's in, let's say the building. Maybe, you know, it has a bit more flexibility. You know, it's in the building. So this could be like in, on, over, under, around. through, those kinds of words, they're what fit there. Right? And what you see with prepositions is they almost always, if not always, appear before a noun phrase. They go together with a noun phrase. So when you see one of these little prepositions, you know that a noun phrase is coming up. And if you see a noun phrase with a mystery little word in front of it, because most prepositions are tiny little words, then you can be confident that this is a preposition, noun phrase, and they will then connect together. Right? So it becomes automatic once you start to see, okay, you see preposition, determiner, noun. Well, you know that, of course, determiner and noun go together as a noun phrase, and then preposition plus noun phrase together make a preposition phrase. Right? So those patterns are going to repeat over and over and over again. But it all starts with identifying that first line of these parts of speech. So these are your main ones: noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and then you see I'm doing it. This is like probably this is maybe a bit of a stretch, just like these two. Some of these templates are more clear than others, and it's not perfect because you can find ways to fit something into that blank that doesn't fit, but it is what usually can fit into that blank is usually that mystery word, that type of word. So your parts of speech to get used to, like, and this is in order of most common to least common. You're going to have noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and preposition. And there's a few other types, like determiners would be the next one, and then a few lesser categories from there. But these are the main ones, right? So if you can tell these, if you can identify these pieces, then I like to say that you're halfway there in syntax.